order
Will
to
you be
have
able,
it.
will you be able to share the slides afterwards, or
I
should
will
we
share the
take notes?
slides and I will share the YouTube link for the webinar, so you will have everything later.
Thank you.
So we are going to deal this day on the topic of the EIC Accelerator, and I'm going to, one, explain what is the EIC Accelerator and what is the potential, but in addition, I'm going to speak about the changes to the EIC Accelerator. That is, since the EU dropped a bomb on June 2nd, and I'm saying a bomb because it was actually 5 days before the cutoff of June, and they announced that they have significant changes to the platform. Normally, it does not happen. I know it's not a good thing to start a webinar with saying, look, it's not so a credible system and organization, but you should try it out. It's not the case. They are mostly credible and easy to work with. But specifically here, in the past few years, they try to do a huge change in the program, and they try to embed an AI tool that will help candidates to apply for their funding. It was some kind of successful, but not enough, because when they were supposed to renegotiate, re-sign the contract with the company that created the platform, they had a legal dispute with them, and that led to the fact that they removed the platform from the system on June 2nd. So we are going to speak about the changes. Some are for the good, some are for the, most of them are for the best. But let's start in short, what is the main topics that we are going to discuss today. One, the EU distributes 100 billion euros for R&D. They have a large budget. The EU sets its budget 7 years in advance. Now it's between 2021 to 2027, and the general budget of the EU is 1.82 trillion euros. Out of that, 100 billion goes to a program, goes by the name Horizon Europe, which we will discuss today in order to understand the macro, so it will be more clear how the EIC Accelerator is a part of this program. So the EIC Accelerator funds are available to TRL 5 startups. I know it's a buzzword, TRL. Most of you probably does not know it, but I will clarify everything later on today. On June 2nd, as I already explained, the EU made significant changes to the program, and obtaining the finance is not too complicated. However, it requires the understanding of the process, and again, this is what we are going to do today. So our agenda for today is, I will explain a bit who we are, why I have the permission here to speak in front of you and explain you about the EU program, shortly about Horizon Europe, types of grants. I will dive into the EIC Accelerator program, main changes since June 2nd, with specific tips of how to adapt yourself and prepare the proposal, tips for a winning bid, and then we will open it for questions. So, diving into the presentation after all the introduction to the webinar. First of all, as I said, TWINNOVATION, it's my own company. I established it 7 years ago. After spending 7 years in the European Parliament, I was working there in the Aspect Committee, which is a regional affair committee. And then after I worked in collaboration with the Science and Technology Committee, and that was where I discovered more about the potential of EU grants. I obviously, since I'm coming from Israel, I started thinking about how Israelis can enjoy those funds. But later on, and nowadays, I'm dealing also with companies from all around Europe. And the main idea is, the fact is that, unfortunately, most companies, most organizations, are not aware for the potential and opportunity that exists within the EU in the form of grants. And why is the EU grant is so good to have? Because of their conditions. They're mostly funding between 70% of the project to sometimes 100% of the project. You receive the funding in advance before even spending €1, one penny. And you do not need to give any royalties. It's not a loan, it's a grant. They're giving it for you to develop your technology. What do they get out of it? They get the fact that basically you're promoting the economy, you're promoting Europe, you're promoting the neighborhood, and that is good for the EU in large. So TWINNOVATION deals with several types of grants. I will dive into it in a moment. And we have to create a strategy for the non-dilutive funding, to prepare the proposal, submit it, and to manage the project after it is being gained and obtained by the EU, from the EU. So, Horizon Europe, the largest R&D program in the world, 100 billion euros. It's like Austin Powers when he asked 100 billion euros for my program. And they're spending it on making the world greener, healthier, and more digitalized. They're promoting their agenda. As I mentioned, the idea is to push forward and promote the economy of the EU, to compete with the US and China in the competition of who is the most innovative, who is the leading economy, who has the most cutting edge technology that will promote their agendas. Israel, for example, is part of it, not from the good will of the European people. We are paying to take part in this program, same as the UK, same as each and every member state of the EU. So this is why we are part of this program, and for this program we're eligible as if we were a European company. This program is being divided into three main pillars. One, excellent science. Most funding from that pillar is going towards academy, research, PhD, etc. Less interesting for us for today. Secondly, global challenges and EU clusters. This is the most prominent part of the program. 53 billion euros of the program is going to this pillar in order to help companies to take part in a consortium in larger projects. It's a top-down project. The EU published 2 years in advance the full program of grants that will be relevant for the next 2 years. And you can see in which program, in which project you can take part and what can be relevant for you in many diverse topics. And last but not least is the EIC Accelerator. This is the last pillar. The last pillar is specifically aimed to help startup companies, SMEs, and innovative companies for profit. We are going to speak today only about the EIC Accelerator. Any question by now?
No.
Perfect. So I'm moving on. EIC Accelerator, what is the offering of the EU? So they're offering up to 2.5 million euros in non-dilutive funding. The 2.5 million euros is actually 70% out of a total project budget that can, if you're getting the maximum of 2.5 million euros, the total budget will be around 3.5, 3.6. That is the cost of the project. They are giving 70% out of it. Another new thing about the EIC Accelerator that was not there in Horizon 2020 is that they're offering up to 15 million euros in investment from the EU. Why is that important and why they're offering that? Basically, in order to give you the 2.5 million euros, they're saying, I want to see that you cannot get this money from anyone else, that you really need us. But at the same time, they want to see that you can bring 30%. So it creates some kind of a catch-22. Therefore, they solve this catch-22 with offering an investment that will cover the 30%. But obviously, 30% of to complete a project in which 2.5 million is 70% does not sum up to 15 million. So why are they offering such a generous amount, such a high amount? Because they're saying it's not enough that we will help you to finalize the development of the product. We really want you to be successful. And for that, we are offering an investment that will enable you to reach the market, to reach break even. And this is actually the 15 million investment from the EU. So the total opportunity is up to 70.5 million euros. Sorry. And the project length of the non-dilutive funding is up to 24 months. Now we will dive in to the process of the submission. And later on, we will move on to who are they looking for and actually what is the typecast of company that they are funding. So it's a long process, but funny to say, it's the shortest that exists in the EU in order to receive funding. And this funding is the highest a company can, it's not the highest, but it's one of the highest opportunities for startup companies. And not only that, this is the only opportunities in which you can come as a standalone company. You do not need to have a partnership or consortium. You're coming as your own company and you're receiving the full amount of the project to the company. So first step, short application. It takes around 1 month to prepare it. They are finalizing it in 3 to 4 weeks and sending you the evaluation. If you receive a go, you're invited to prepare a full application, a full submission. Important to note that because of what happened on June 2nd and the removal of the previous platform, yesterday they uploaded the new platform for short application. It's less user-friendly, less UI, UX, you can be sure of that. But the good news, we can already start applying because until now it was not optional to start applying for step 1. So since yesterday, applying for a short application is open again. We can apply whenever we want during the year. And if we receive a go after the evaluation, we are invited to prepare step 2. Step 2 is a full application. And the main difference is there are many differences, but the main in the process is that there are specific cutoffs. Each year, there are approximately 4 cutoffs to apply for the step 2, for the full application. The next cutoff will be on October 4th. Later on, it's supposed to be on January, March, June, and October, and so on for the next 5 years until 2027. So just for your understanding, in order to be able to reach October 4th, you need to have a go evaluation from step 1. And because a full application obviously is longer, it takes more time to prepare than a short application. So what we are usually suggesting is to have at least 8 weeks or 2 months to prepare the full application. This is the ideal timing. It is possible to do it in 6 weeks. And basically, I believe that in the new template and the new process, it's even possible in 5 weeks. But I will not advise that. I think it's taking to be too much in a rush in preparation of step 2. So if we are counting back 4th of October, the ideal timing to start working on that is 4th of August, 3 to 4 weeks. We can already see that it might be too late for the October 4th in order to reach this submission. The only option to do that is starting working in parallel on step 1 and step 2, but it's taking a higher risk because you never know if you will receive the go for the step 1, and you don't want to waste any of your precious time on preparing step 2 when you do not know if you will be invited. The evaluation of step 2 takes 5 to 6 weeks. If you receive a go, you're being invited to an interview, either in Brussels, either on Zoom, and you're sitting in front of a committee that their proficiency is, they're coming as investors. They are not the investors to put the 15 millions, but the typecast of this committee is a typecast of sitting in front of investors committee, and they are coming from the business mindset towards your technology and proposal. Why is that? Because you passed a long pathway in order to prove that your technology and in general your business plan is great. So if you reach this point, there is no question about how great is your technology. But now the question is, how great is your team? How are you collaborating together, getting the sense of the people behind the company, and what is really your business plan, and to see that you know what you're doing, and it's not just a consultant that wrote everything perfectly for you, and the people in the company does not know anything. If you receive a go for that, you will hear from them 3 weeks after the interview, and you will be invited to negotiation. The negotiation is not about how much money you will receive, but it's more about how will be the reports during the project, what will be included in the project exactly, but they're not opening the full application. The application you prepared, this is the business plan for the next 2 years. Is that clear? Any question about the process? Okay, perfect. Moving on, who are they looking for? So the most important point in who are they looking for is the 10 commandments. It's actually the 9 commandments of the technological of the EU, which are the technological readiness level. They want to see on what step you are on the technological development pathway, and it is different from the finance recruitment, fundraising. Why? Because most times when I'm asking a company, okay, where you are, and they're answering, oh, we are in seed or round A, and I think it's not specific enough. But if we are looking at technological readiness level, it's much clearer where is the company and in what phase. So we are speaking about 9 steps, which can be divided into 2. One is idea to lab, and the second is lab to market. So first thing is basic principle observed. TRL2 is technology concept formulated. You are writing on paper, you are creating research, publications about the concept of the technology. Third TRL3 is experimental proof of concept, still in the lab, still experimental, showing the first time that the proof, there is a proof of the concept you formulated in TRL2. 4, technology validated in lab. It's not enough that you had an experimental proof of concept, but also you need to validate the technology in the lab and make it prepared in order to get out of the lab. So the second part is lab to the market. TRL5, technology validated in relevant environments. Now, this is very important because they want to meet you in TRL 5 readiness level. They want to see that your technology reached TRL 5 in order to give you the grant, in order for you to be eligible to submit and apply for the EIC grant. There are other opportunities for lower TRLs, but this specific opportunity is relevant starting from TRL 5 or TRL 6, which is technology demonstrated in relevant environment. I highlighted here 3 points in TRL 5, 6, and 7, because at first look, it seems like all of those are quite the same. Technology validated in relevant environment, technology demonstrated in relevant environment, system prototype demonstration in operational environment. So what is basically the difference? Let's compare between 5 to 6. 5 is technology validated. And on TRL 6, it's technology demonstrated. What is the difference between validated and demonstrated? Validated is one time. You took the technology, you put it outside the lab to a relevant environment for your technology, let's say medical device. The relevant environment for a medical device, let's say non-invasive, is human beings. It's not animals anymore. So this is outside the lab, a first in human. TRL 6, however, is a full-scale clinical trial. It's a long demonstration. For non-medical devices, again, validated is trying it once. Demonstrated is showing that it's working for a long period of time. This is the pilot, beta site, etc. Then the next step is the difference between 6 and 7. So in 6, it is still mentioned technology, whereas in 7, it's already a system prototype. So this is the main difference. Here you still have not a raw technology, but it's not a finalized prototype, not a finalized product. It's still on the way to become a product, and the first system prototype demonstrated in operational environment, meaning the operation that you're working with is counting on your technology. There is no backup plan. Now your technology that you promoted and say it's the best in the world and convince the end user to use it, that will be the thing that will be used in order to complete the task. So when you're reaching TRL 7, you need to be with enough confidence that your system prototype is working and can be operational. Next, TRL 8, system complete and qualified, and 9, commercialization. What is the idea of the EIC? To take you from TRL 5 and 6, and that at the end of the 2 years, at the end of the 24 months, you will reach commercialization. You will finalize those either 6, 7, and 8, or only 7 and 8 development during the project, and get to the market. Any questions about the TRL? Perfect.
Is there
Yes.
an advantage if you are in a higher TRL, like if you are in 6 over 5 or 7 over 6 in their view?
You cannot apply if you're in TRL 7. You can apply only if you're in TRL 5 and 6. 6, you need to remember that you need to convince them that you still need to develop parts of your technology. But because 5 to 7 is very confusing, and also I normally say that in Israel there are 3 TRLs, idea, MVP, and marketing. So sometimes we're confused and we are thinking we are already very advanced, or mostly people think that they are more advanced than they are actually. But best will be to be between 5 and 6, and it's really depending on your technology. For example, in medical device, it's even better to be more closer to 6 because it takes longer time to develop the technology. In software and cyber, for example, I will advise to be in 5 because the time to market and the time of development is shorter. Am I correct from your experiences from cybersecurity?
Of course, it's shorter than clinical or medical devices, but it depends.
Of course, of course. But just exactly, this is the answer. It depends what is the technology and how long is the development and how long it will take to reach from one step to the other. If if for your technology reaching from TRL 5 to TRL 8 will take 4 years, it will not be granted because this is a proposal for 2 years. But and then it will be advised for you to apply when you're reaching TRL 6. However, if it takes only 2 years to reach TRL 8 from 5 or 1 year and a half, it will be advised to apply in TRL 5. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So now, main differences, although I have the impression that almost all of you have never applied for the EU before, so it's not really important for you what are the changes. But Sharon said that they applied before. So the EU said that there are no radical changes, that the EU as the EU, the European Commission, they're saying no radical changes, and then they're making radical changes. But they are, from my opinion and my professional experience, they are for the best. So there are no answers and questions anymore. Before there was answers and there were questions. You had a limitation of 1,000 characters for each question. Most of the question was repetitive. And now it's an open proposal that you can describe and answer. There are different demands and questions that we will elaborate about them in a moment. Instead of character limitation, now they have a pages limitation. So before it could have reached 150 pages, now it's only 50 pages. Again, I think it's for the best because it makes the proposal more to the point. There is no need for use cases and features anymore. Beforehand, they want you to explain exactly what are the use cases and what are the features and what is they really had this repetitive model of explaining your technology that was built upon what knowledge you have, what knowledge is needed, what knowledge is needed to develop. It was very repetitive. It does not exist anymore, and this is for the best. Secondly, annexes. They changed the financial information annex. So if you are familiar with the previous program, make sure you are downloading the new financial information annex. I hope now it's already adjusted. At the beginning, they had many problems with that, but I can assure you that on June 21st, it was already prepared. They added a mandatory data and consent annex regarding the GDPR, a classical EU move. And last but not least, the rest are all the same. So you still, I will elaborate about it later, but you still need to have data management plan, freedom to operate a report, letters of intent. They did add, now you need to add the CVs. Before you just need to shortly describe, but that is funny as well, because before you just needed to shortly describe, now you have no questions and no limitation for characters, so you can choose how you describe your team. But anyway, you need to add the CVs of all your key employees. What is being evaluated, which is the most important? The proposal is being split into, is divided to 3 main topics, main sections. One is the excellence. They want to know that you have the most prominent state-of-the-art technology in your field, in your market. So they're asking for the company description. It's not really related to excellence, but this is part of the first section to see who is the company. Then after you need to describe the problem and The next step is how you're going to solve it. What is your USP? In general, what you need to do in this section is to go deep into the technology. They want to know and learn how was the process of developing the technology. How did you reach from around TRL 2 or 3 to TRL 5 or 6? This section proves them that you really reached TRL 6 or 5 for that matter. So don't be afraid of diving into the technology. The proposal is protected by an NDA, an agreement with the EU, and it's very important to share with them the small details of technology. Okay, obviously don't share the deepest secret of your company, but don't keep it close to your chest either, because it's very important that you will convince them that your technology is the state of the art and going to make a difference to the market. That leads me to the next section, a difference to the market, the impact. You hear EU, you hear impact, you think about climate change, the African Union, and other sorts of things, but this is not the case. Impact mean in the context of the EIC Accelerator, what impact your company and your technology will have on the market. Are you going to change the market? Are you going to be the next gold standard for the market? It's not only about how you are going to combat the climate crisis. The climate crisis, although this is what is showing all the billboards in around Europe, but this is not the main topic. Market analysis and competition analysis never say we do not have competition. Nobody likes to invest or work with a company that thinks that they do not have a competition. I like to say, if you really believe you do not have a competition, let's say you invented the oven, so your competition is the fire. Find a competition. Don't be arrogant and say, we are the only one. Maybe in your specific segment, you're the only one, but people were trying to have some kind of a solution to the problem, even if it's not ideal, even if it's stupid, even if the technology was not developed yet, you need to compare it to something. Marketing and sales plan, you need to have your business plan, your pricing plan, and need to be clear about how you're going to promote and make money out of your product, out of your company. This is very important. And then the last thing they want to hear is the broad impact about the EU, about the environment, economy, etc. Those two are excellent and very nice to have, but they worth nothing if you cannot prove your ability to implement. So you have a great technology, you have a great business plan, but if you do not have the right team and management, if you are not evaluating the risk, if you do not have a financial plan, an implementation plan, and know how to explain why you need the support, it will not help you. You will not receive the funding from the EU, because they want to see and learn that you have the people, that you have the team, or that you are aware of who are you missing from your team in order to accomplish the mission. They want to know that if they give you the funding, you will know what to do with it, and you have the people that know what to do with that. Because excellence maybe not, but impact for sure. You can buy a business plan in a round of a good business plan in 20,000 euros, and that does not mean that the people behind the company know how to implement it. So those are the 3 points that they are evaluating: excellence, impact, and implementation, to see that the people behind the company can implement the impact and excellence. Question about the evaluation process. or what are they evaluating? Great, best audience ever. And is more changes that they added to this program, to this new template, compared to the previous template. You need to add a screenshot of your Gantt. You need to prepare a full working plan to show, and I will show you in a moment how exactly the work plan should be prepared. But if in the previous platform, they automatically created the Gantt for you from what you submitted in the platform, now you need to create it by yourself. And it's a good thing, an important thing to share it in the proposal. So they will see you have a plan, that you have a systematic way of working. This is an example of a Gantt. As I mentioned before, the project is only 2 years, so maybe you are asking yourself, why is there the third year here? And the reason is to show the program of what you're going to do with the investment that will lead you to commercialization. Not to break even, but commercialization. Then next point is, what is the work package structure? You need to list the work packages. You need to describe the work packages, starting from the objective and who is responsible for this work package, what are the different tasks, what are you, it's literally, you need to develop and show this is not the business plan, because the business plan is about the commercialization. This is the working development plan. This is what you're asking funding for. Each task here needs to be matched into a financial line that will explain why you need the funding and how you're building the funding. So that is important as well. For each task, for each work package, you need to show how you're going to prove that you accomplished it, what milestones you have, and list of critical risks. Any question about the Gantt and work package structure? Okay, moving on. Then the last and important part of the changes they add is that you need to elaborate about the cost and justification of cost, travel and subsistence, equipment, etc., etc. The point is to really describe it. Don't just write a cost. For example, when we are writing travel, we're writing the cost, but we are adding also for 2 people, for 5 travels, it will cost us approximately, really justify it. They want to see it. So what is the content of the proposal? The first step is proposal, pitch deck, and short video, which the length is around 5 to 10 pages. This is what needs to be prepared for the first step. The full submission, the second step, you need to have a business model, a work plan, as I showed, market penetration plan, financial information, P&L, balance sheets, letters of support and letters of intent, competition analysis, what needs to be still developed, and a pitch deck. Any question about that? Okay. Then, checklist before starting. After we discuss who are they looking for and what are they looking for, now I'm summarizing it into some kind of a checklist that takes all the things that I spoke of during this webinar and things that I suggested to think about before thinking of submitting the proposal or going to this process. Okay, so first thing first, make sure you have a breakthrough technology. How do you make sure you have a breakthrough technology? I give you several tips. One, if you have patents, you're in the right way. If you don't have patents, you need to really understand the market and understand what are the competitive technologies and what is your value proposition. Makes sense that software does not have a patent behind it. However, it is really crucial to know what is your value proposition and what is your unique selling point comparing to the other technologies available in the market. Unique selling point, in order to be relevant for breakthrough technology, cannot sit only about the concept, about the team. It needs to be technological unique selling point. So that is the first point. Second thing, the market. Make sure, it sounds obvious, but I can assure you it's not. Make sure that there are people who are willing to pay. How do you know that? If you have letters of intent, you need to already have some connections to the market. You need to know that people will be willing to pay for what you're offering, and that will also help you to understand how much they're willing to pay. It's not enough that, let's give you an example, a very prominent professor from a Politecnico de Milano gave you a letter. You need them. You need somebody that have cash in his pockets that will be willing to pay for the product. Make sure you're at least at TRL 5 and not on TRL 7, as we described. Make sure you have further resources enough to finalize the project. I'm not speaking about only the 30%. I'm mainly speaking about the long process to reach until you receive the go and you receive the grant. As you can see, it takes around 8 months, 6 months before seeing the funding from the EU. So if you're applying, let's say in October, and your runaway will be finished by March 2024, it's not a good news for the EU because no, actually, if you're finishing your runaway by March 2024, this is okay. But if by October you don't have any resources or funding, then it means that basically when they will grant you the funding, you will not have any more a company because you don't have any resources to continue working on your development from October to March. And lastly, and this is super important, having a support, showing that you have a strong backing of people who believe in you, board of directors that coming from the field and business, have a wide business experience, and a scientific advisory board to show that the most highlighted people in the field are supporting you, and that you're not just speaking about something, that you have a strong scientific advisory board behind you. Any question about the checklist? So I am moving on to the most important part, which is winning submission tips. First of all, and most importantly, obviously for European companies, it goes without saying, but for those of us from Israel and from UK, it's very important to speak European. It is important to speak in euros and not in dollars. Yes, you need to convert all of your numbers, everything to euros. Do not have this sign, the dollar sign, in your proposal. You got an investment, obviously it was in dollars, change the mark and convert it to euros. It makes a difference. You are coming to their place, please be polite and speak their language. Secondly, think of Europe as your target market. Europe is not a state, it's a continent, it's a union with many states, meaning if you're saying, I'm going to have a market penetration, don't say I'm going to, in 2026, I'm going to penetrate Europe. That does not exist. I'm going to start from Germany, and not only Germany, I'm going to start from Bavaria, And then from there, I'm going to work with the Polish distributor, and I'm going to develop my technology in Romania. Show them that you understand the union, that you're going to invest the funding back in the European economy. How much to ask? The 2.5 million euros question. Just what you need. Do not ask 2.49999 million euros. That is the worst thing you can ask, because then they will know you are not thinking, you do not have a plan, you did not build a plan. Even if you manage to exhaust all the finance that are available and write a good plan, it's best not to write 2.4999 in the line of how much you need. And the best way to do it is to build a budget bottom up. This is my way of working with my clients. We are building a budget from the bottom up, and then even if we are reaching 2.5, which is happening, we have a very good justification. And the person who is reading the budget and our financial needs truly understand where each euro is going to and why it is needed. They do not like subcontracting. What is subcontracting? Subcontracting is not lawyers, marketing advisors, patent registry companies. This is not subcontracting. This is services. Subcontracting is when you're taking a development task, a technological development task, and subcontract it to external company. If you're taking the essence of the project, one of the tasks in the work package, and outsource it, then it's something they do not like. And it really depends. Again, it's something that needs to be discussed, but in a nutshell, they want to see that you're a R&D company and not just a marketing company that outsource all your development processes. Two last things. When you're working on the first step, read carefully all the instructions because they're repetitive, as you saw with the good example of the TRL 5, 6, and 7. It looks the same, but it is not, so you should read it carefully. Sound repetitive, look again. Then the second step, start working on it straight away. You're submitting the first step, start working on the second step. The hardest thing to develop in the second step is receiving letters of intent. It's hard. Finalize the FTO. Not every company has it. And the budget. Those are the main blocks that are withholding the work. So I advise you to start working on it right away. Then the last thing I want to tell you, and this is very important, that the pitch that you submit at the second step will be the same pitch deck that you will use in the interview. You will not be allowed to change anything. It will not even be a PPT, it will be a PDF. So I know there are a lot to submit during the second step. It might be even overwhelming, but do not neglect the pitch deck because all of your hard work will not worth anything if you are getting to the interview with, sorry for my language, a shitty pitch deck that you're not stand behind it. And if there is a maximum of ability of one person to speak about things that are not exist in the pitch deck and ignoring what does exist in the pitch deck. So that's were my main advice for today. That's it. We're offering a go, no go process for free. You can speak with me after this webinar. We can schedule a meeting and we can offer you the first evaluation to which grant you should go. And if you're in a good fit, in a good position to apply for the EIC Accelerator or other grants, as I mentioned, in order for you not to start the way without having the first assurance that you're on the right path and that you have any kind of chance and that you're eligible. That's it. Any questions?
Is there any advantage or relevant grants also to citizens of the EU, or Israel is equivalent in this aspect since we participate in the program?
In this specific program, Israel is equivalent. You just need to make sure it's not a problem that the company is registered in Israel. Many Israeli companies receive this funding. The only thing you need to make sure is to have enough weight of letters of intent and business plan in the European market. I can give you an example for a comment we received from an evaluator. We brought 3 letters of intent from Israel and 3 letters of intent from Europe, and we showed that we are going to do clinical studies in 2 Israeli medical centers and 2 European medical centers, and they said, you're asking for European funding, it cannot be equivalent. It cannot be equally distributed. So we want to see that you are going more into the EU. So that is where I will put my effort. It does not matter that your company is based in Israel and not in the EU. And I will say another thing, which is very important, mostly until today, from my experience, there is a very thick separation between political issues and economical issues. I did not see up until today that the political issues affected on the ability to receive grants, and the numbers of people and institutes and companies who receive grants from the EU can prove that I'm correct about it. So that is important to note as well, specifically for Israel, obviously. Any other questions, comments? So
the difference between the levels is quite tricky, and also, as you mentioned, that it takes time until October. So basically, even if now we are in a status of TRL 5 or 6, there is a possibility that until then, or until the interviews, it will already move on to the next phase.
That is correct, and this is why we're offering a go, no-go conversation to make sure that will not happen if you're going to
So what you say that if by the time of the interview I believe that I will reach TRL 7, then it becomes irrelevant?
It might be irrelevant, but from my experience, and I do not remember your specific position in the company, but entrepreneurs tend to be optimistic. And if you're making a decision about not applying because you believe you will be in TRL 7 by October, I would advise to rethink it, because many times I met companies that assured me that they will be in TRL 7 or even 8 by the time of the submission, or in 1 year period, and 2 years later they're still in TRL 6 or 5. Again, software, cybersecurity, it's a whole different case. I can only offer you to have a go, no-go discussion to further investigate it specifically for your company.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to receive the slides and the record of this webinar, please leave your emails or your name so I can find your emails on the chat. And I think that's it, if no one has any other questions. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a lovely day. I will happily share this information with you via email on the next following days. And thank you for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Is the word is different? נתן, אני לא הבנתי את השאלה שלך. אז או אם אתה רוצה לחזור אליה, או אם אתה רוצה לכתוב לי אחרי זה בפירוט באימייל, בשמחה. אוקיי, טוב, תודה רבה חברים, שמחתי מאוד.